Hey guys, Zangetsu 134 here, bringing you another My Hero Academia vlog, this time on episode 2 of Season 4. And we are on the first episode that actually has anything to do with the manga. So in this episode, we're introduced to the plot point of Izuku trying to get his internship, as well as the introduction of Overhaul and his terrorist organization, the Shie Haisakai. I gotta be honest, this actually was a pretty good episode, especially because I enjoyed us finally getting an introduction to more than just Overhaul. Um, because they had been shown shortly at the end of season 3, but they really weren't doing anything. We got hints at their powers, mainly Overhauls, but here we actually get to see Overhaul use his quirk, um, if only for a little bit. um, as he uses it to kill Magni by exploding her and taking one of Compress's arms off. So yeah, I actually really like the voice actor that they got for Overhaul. It gives him a very good sound. It actually sounds a lot kind of like what I pictured of him in the manga. Very quiet and clearly trying to restrain fury behind his um, fear of dirt. As you gotten in this, he's clearly very much a clean freak, as evidenced by the Plague Doctor mask and the fact that he wears gloves the whole time, and also his freak out when Magni's blood gets all over him. Um, so it definitely sets up a very interesting plot element, and this being, of course, the beginning of the Overhaul arc, and how basically Overhaul wants to make the Yakuza organizations come to flourish now that both All Might and All for One are out of the picture. There's a power vacuum, not just in the hero community, but also in the villains, as there's no real driving force now. so so basically, the Yakuza are trying to make a play to get organized crime back up and running, because as we've seen of organized crime in the show, basically they're just hired guns or more or less weapons dealers. They're not nearly the in control of society like you see like with typical mafia or yakuza stuff. They've been reduced to a very very limited role. We're also, of course, introduced to the Night Eye Agency, Night Eye being All Might's one and only sidekick. Although I kind of feel like, seeing as how the movie is canon, technically David is a sidekick to him, but I guess he never really counted David. I don't know, that was really confusing. But for the sake of argument, we'll stick with the manga and how Night Eye is his only sidekick. Um, and I did like this just because like it was nice to have actual stuff with Mirio, since Mirio really only got to show off his quirk. Now we get to see Mirio as a person, and I really do like Mirio. Like, while he may not be the brightest kid in his class, he clearly makes up for it by his enthusiasm to be a hero and just his dedication to train. In this episode, since you see him a lot more in his student outfit, you can actually see more of the scars on his arms from just the amount of training he does. We're also reintroduced to Bubble Girl and Night Eye, Bubble Girl being one of Night Eye's sidekicks, and his very, very weird way of punishing his subordinates when they don't keep their energy up the whole time. Poor Bubble Girl. She was just trying to get through um, this really big briefing with him on the events that, like, what they found of the battle between the end of the battle between the League of Villains and the Shie Haisakai, which I might just start calling the Eight Precepts of Death, just because it's a lot easier for me to say than Shie Haisakai. I'm trying to say it like how they did in when I was watching it, because I watched it dubbed, but it's kind of hard to pronounce. But anyway, um, and yeah, I will admit I did like this arc. When I was reading through it, I felt bad for Izuku just because of what you'll see in the next episode, but for me, I just felt bad that Izuku had to go through all this. It was kind of cool because we were setting up a bunch of different plot points, such as the fact that All Might refuses to introduce Izuku to Night Eye, basically because the two of them had some sort of falling out. That's not really addressed here. It's going to be addressed in the next episode because I know what's coming. Um, but otherwise, the the bigger points basically is that the students are allowed to go on. Hold on a second. are allowed to go on internships as long as they can get a hero with good credibility in the internship business, as well as maintaining their own studies as they do. Which, of course, Izuku is like the fourth highest in the class, so he should be fine. Um, Basically, I like it because it's I like for one that Mirio um is really willing to help Izuku just because Izuku has kind of matured in his goal since the last 3 seasons of like everything he's been through. He doesn't want just to be a hero who rescues someone with a smile. He wants to be a hero that can save people without making others worry. Basically, he no longer wants to have everyone worry that he'll hurt himself using his quirk or not being able to pull through. And that was kind of endearing to me. I'd forgotten how much Izuku has grown uh since the end of season 3 and this season, um because he really does grow a lot, mostly through the provincial license exam stuff and his fight with Bakugo, which was the end of the first season or the third season. It just shows how much he's willing to. He's realized that chasing his goal without any plans or trying to do so in All Might's shadow has kind of hindered him and has nearly cost him his ability to be a hero. So we also, of course, get a big hint to the plot point that's going to be a major factor in this arc. That of the fact that All Might originally, and spoilers if you haven't seen the episode, and spoilers if you haven't read the manga yet and are waiting for the next episode. But I mean, if you put two and two together when watching this episode, Mirio was supposed to be who All Might was going to choose to be his successor. In fact, Principal Nedzu had actually been looking at the kids his own, and he found someone who matched up to All Might's own ideals. In fact, I feel like that was very much on Horikoshi's mind. If getting a minute to talk about Mirio's design, he very much looks like a young All Might. Like he has the blonde hair as All Might, and whereas All Might's eyes are sunken in, Mirio also doesn't have pupils, as if making him look kind of like a child of like skinny All Might. Um, but yeah, not really a lot happens in this episode. It's kind of a I wouldn't I feel it's rude to say filler, but it's once again just a setup episode, and much like uh season 3 with the pool episode, this is like it was a filler episode that leads into an episode that sets up the whole arc of the season, much like how that episode led into the introduction of the Wild Wild Pussycats and the beginning of the training camp arc. So it was kind of frustrating in that regard. Just not because like for me, this is mostly me if I was someone who didn't watch the anime or didn't read the manga but is watching the anime. It feels like you have like 2 episodes of setup before we actually start getting into some like decent action or like decent story. We have the introduction of Overhaul and seeing more of the Shie Hasakai and the death of Magni, but then it's just all set up for Izuku's eventual trying to get his own internship, which is fine. And I really won't say much on Sir Night Eye. I'll talk more about Sir Night Eye when we get the next episode, since he's gonna have a lot more to say than in this one. And Bubble Girl, which funnily enough, I think Bubble Girl and the other, because Night Eye has 2 sidekicks. Not Mirio. Mirio's his intern, but he has 2 other sidekicks, and I think both of them were winners from a contest. I think these 2 were created by either kids or people that were fans of the series. Like basically, Shonen Jump ran a contest to get your heroes in the manga, and Horikoshi used them to make Mirio's sidekicks. Bubble Girl, I think being the winner, and I think the other one's the runner-up. I can't remember exactly, but basically, Bubble Girl is one of his sidekicks. She's fine. She really doesn't do much, and I've never really understood her design. Like, I think she's supposed to have blue skin, so like her outfit's kind of skimpy, but I can't tell if that's supposed to be like a bodysuit or something. Her design's kind of weird. I will admit I did love the ending of this episode where basically if Izuku wants to get in, he's gonna have to try and make Sir Night-Eye laugh, and to do so he did his impersonation of All Might, which is actually something he apparently can do with his face. Basically, if anyone remembers when Izuku or was when All Might was talking to Izuku about when he gave him his quirk, he did the whole All Might face and said, "Eat this." That is not just a joke that they were that happened. Izuku can legitimately do, thanks to practicing that face since he was like 4. He can actually like shift his face to make it look like All Might, and even he can do the voice. And he thought that would make him laugh, but it did not. It in fact ticked Sir Night Eye off, and that's where the episode ended. Um, Overall, it's not a bad episode. It's just there's not much for me to talk about because it's more or less just a bunch of setup. And while I certainly enjoyed this when I was both reading the manga and watching it, there's not really much for me to say. It's oh, it does bring up something that you'll be seeing towards the end of this arc. I think between this arc and the arc that's going to come after is that Todoroki and Bakugo are now doing their after school training in order for them to get their provincial licenses. You'll actually see that there's a couple other characters that they'll be working with for that. I think basically after the end of this first arc, because I do think that this series is going to be 2 arcs long, much like the last one. Well, they'll do 2 arcs in the manga, and thankfully they won't have to do filler in between like they did seasons 2 and 3. They'll more or less just be allowed to get away with just doing the series, doing that. I also wonder if we're going to be getting a movie tie-in like we did last season, just because of the fact that there is going to be a movie coming out this year, but I think in December. But I don't know. I don't know if it'll be as big as the first one because that was the first movie, so I don't know, but we'll see. But yeah, I think I'm gonna wrap it up for this one. Like I said, it was kind of short, but there's not really much to this episode. It's just we're introduced to the League of Villains and the Shiei Haisakai and the stuff for the beginning of this arc, and Izuku's own mission of trying to get training with Sir Night Eye so he can make himself stronger, faster. But anyway, guys, I think that's gonna wrap it up for this vlog. I guess we'll wait and see what happens next week. Sorry, it's not very much, but I don't know what else to say. I guess real quick I could talk about he's right here. Talk about these Seth MacFarlane figures. This is the McFarlane Toys My Hero Academia 7-inch Izuku. I have Bakugo over here. Where is he? Where is it? Yeah, right there. But you probably didn't see him because I can't. You know, I'll just pick him up. My death trap of a room. Yeah, this is Bakugo and Izuku. There's also Tomura Shigaraki and All Might in this line. I admit they're not bad toys. The effects parts on his arms here are not very. Unfortunately, they're actually glued onto his arm. Bakugo actually has 2 different hands, one of which has a permanent effects part, but overall, these aren't bad. Izuku also has a face change gimmick where he actually has a smiley face, but I wanted to leave this one on him because, smash! They're not bad toys. They definitely have a lot of articulation. I just wish their effects parts weren't so molded on. And in fact, I don't think All Might and Tomura have effects parts at all, but I haven't got those figures out. But yeah, not bad figures. Not a bad price too. Yeah, so I guess that really is it for now. I kind of wanted to at least get this to be 14 or 15 minutes. I didn't want a 12-minute vlog, but well, that's it, guys. I'm Zangetsu 134, and take care.